we are in the early stages of a cultural civil war, which is very real. And I think that that's hard for people to grasp. But the people on the other side are totally sincere. We may think that they're crazy. We may think that they make no sense. But inside their worldview, they're faced with annihilation because the American people and President Trump have come together to fundamentally go back to classic American values and classic American rules. I mean, things as simple as not allowing boys in girls' bathrooms, which, in 1960 would have been obvious, but for a brief period, particularly under Obama and Biden, it suddenly became something where the state was going to impose on us a radically different set of values. Something as simple as basic patriotism. Do you think that America matters? Does English matter as a language? Should we have a border that works? On all of these things, the gap between the big government socialist left with its weird values and the rest of the country is enormous. And based on our America's New Majority Project polling, we guess that somewhere between 15 and 20% of the American people side with the big government socialists and their weird values, and the rest of the country clearly opposes them. And so what you're going to see is more and more, I think, fervor and fanaticism as they literally see all the things that they want to have happen disappear as the American people sort of return to a core belief in the Constitution, in the work ethic, in the right to rise based on meritocracy, and a whole range of things, all of which are direct threats to the people on the left who are speaking in such harsh language. This is all real, that from their side they feel desperate, that they are being driven to more and more radical and hostile views out of desperation, not because they feel confident, but because, in fact, they are terrified by what they're seeing happen. And what's happening is, as the country continues to move away from them, as people increasingly see them as weird, unacceptable, alien to the American tradition, they're going to become more desperate. They're not going to become easier to deal with. The assassin is going to be tried and either get the death penalty or get life without parole. So we're going to go after people. Antifa now is about to be declared a terrorist organization, and the people who donated to it will face consequences, I think, which almost certainly will include George Soros and his people. And I think you're going to see the country, in an organized way, become much more militant and much more aggressive about being against anti-violence, against those who would advocate violence, and against those who would create the kind of hysterical hatred of the rest of us. I mean, you look at what some of these people say, and you're exactly right. You look at school teachers who have been, said, that they're glad that Charlie Kirk was dead. Well, that's totally unacceptable, and I suspect you're going to find a lot of people getting fired for saying things like that. But I do think you shouldn't underestimate, from the standpoint of somebody who believes in transgenderism, or somebody who believes passionately that there should be no borders, that the U.S. is a bad country. Remember, the left has for 50 years now painted this picture of a bad America. Well, the folks who believe that are now very frightened that they're about to be dominated by margins so big that they have no hope of winning by that very, what they would have thought called bad America. Well, you and I would call the United States of America, the American dream, the American Constitution. So we're going to celebrate a 250th anniversary next year of the launching of the Declaration of Independence. People on the left will not celebrate it because they will think, this was the beginning of a terrible country. And you see this when you deal with the hard left. It's amazing that they live really in an alternative universe. Look, there's a block of people on the left who favor the criminal over the police. They favor the illegal immigrant over ICE. We keep, Franklin Roosevelt once gave a speech trying to explain Nazi Germany and said, if you're standing next to a rattlesnake, you don't have to wait until it strikes to decide that it's dangerous. And I think we because we believe in a free society, because we believe in living with our neighbors, it's very hard for most everyday normal people to understand that they may have neighbors who have a deep, vicious hostility towards them. And yet we know, we've now seen example after example of people on the left, whether it is, shooting the Republican majority leader at a baseball field, or it is trying to assassinate a Supreme Court justice. There's incident after incident after incident now. And of course, there was the whole glorification of violence in the summer of 2020 when people on the left thought it was wonderful to burn down buildings, including police stations, to generally cause chaos. You'll notice, by the way, radical difference in the two sides. When Charlie Kirk gets killed, you don't see riots by the conservatives. You don't see conservatives out burning down buildings. There's deep anger. There's a deep sense that something's terribly wrong. But we, in fact, are trying to use the rule of law to straighten the country out, which is why I thought President Trump's designation of Antifa as a terrorist group was a very important signal about where this is going to go. We are going to, in fact, have a reckoning with all of these various elements who've been trying to destroy America.